Hello everyone and welcome to the library's NewsBank tutorial. Today we're going to talk about newspaper articles and both how you can find newspaper articles in the library's databases, specifically the NewsBank database, and then also how you can use newspaper articles. Most of the time you're going to be asked to write research papers that incorporate peer-reviewed sources, and newspaper articles aren't. So how do you use a non-peer-reviewed source to build out your academic research? That's going to be one of many topics that we cover today, so let's dive right in. Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about a database, NewsBank, that doesn't come up quite as often in your research journeys and also doesn't play as well with Dragon Quest, so you don't normally see results from this database in your everyday Dragon Quest search. As you might imagine, given the name of the resource, NewsBank is a really good resource for accessing newspaper articles and current events, current news. So we're going to access NewsBank through the Databases tab on the library here. And then we'll navigate to the ends for newspaper. And while I'm here, while I'm looking at these databases, it's a good time to point out the ones that do play well with Dragon Quest that you don't need to do anything extra for, and the ones that don't. So resources that have an alternate name listing of EBSCO, like Newspaper Source here, those are fine. Those play well with Dragon Quest. You don't need to do anything extra to access those resources unless you specifically want to look only in Newspaper Source. Then you want to access it directly. For other resources like Nexus Uni here, which will be the subject of another video, and NewsBank, which is the subject of today's video, these don't list EBSCO as an alternate name. That means they don't play as well with Dragon Quest. You're not going to find the resources that are tucked away here when you do your average Dragon Quest search. So let's click on NewsBank, and let's get a feel for what this resource can do. So right away, I can see that the interface, the layout of this database is a little bit different than Dragon Quest, right? It's got a lot of the same sorts of things, but in different places, and it's missing a couple of the other things that go with Dragon Quest. So in the center here, we have our basic search bar. This is where we're going to go when we want to do just a general search of what's in this database. We're going to do that in a moment, but for now, let's poke around and see what else we have available here. We also have other search options. This is our advanced search option. If I click on that, I see that it's set up a lot like Dragon Quest's advanced search with the added sort of quirk that the first bar has a search bar and then a select a field drop-down menu. That's very familiar from Dragon Quest's advanced search. But the second box defaults to a date. I can change that. I can go to select a field and just combine multiple keywords the same way that I do with an advanced search in Dragon Quest, but I have to be aware of that when I'm in this database because NewsBank thinks I'm probably looking for a specific subject in a specific year, in a specific date range, which might not be the case. That might not be what I'm looking for. The other way I can refine my search that is a little bit unique is I can narrow things down geographically. I can look only for newspaper sources from a specific area. Not really quite the same presentation in Dragon Quest. I can look by specific country. So if I want to know what the Meicho is reporting on because I've been watching a lot of Tokyo Vice, I could do that. I could do a search just for Japanese newspaper articles and get a sense for what's going on in Japan. Or at least I could if I could read Japanese, which I cannot. So that's your advanced search features. There are other options here, and you'll see that the date search and the map search, those things that we looked at with the advanced search features, those are also linked directly here as well. Okay, but let's say that I arrive at NewsBank and I don't necessarily have a research topic picked out yet. I'm exploring. I want to find out a little bit more about some sort of current issue, current events, something that's in the news that I'm going to do academic research on or that I'm going to write a paper about that doesn't need peer-reviewed sources, but I don't know exactly what that paper is going to be just yet. So if I scroll down here, we have suggested topics that are going to give you a really good overview of important things that are currently happening. If I wanted to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, for instance, I could click on that. We have a drop-down of dozens of different options of resources, of searches that are already programmed into NewsBank. I can start with any of these very broad topics, look at sports, diversity, equity, and inclusion in sports, and I'll see that I already have 1,500 search results that I can start playing with, that I can start narrowing down to see what's most useful to me. Now, just like Dragon Quest, we want to keep an eye on this left bar because this is where our filters are. By default, I'm seeing the newest material first with newspapers. That's probably best. That's probably what I want to see. I also noticed that my results go back to 1980, and maybe that's too old. In fact, that's almost certainly too old. So let's roll that forward to just 2023. I want to see results in the last year if I'm looking for something current in this field. So if I apply that filter, I now only have 135 results that span from January of 2023 up through December of 2023. Because that is specific to a single year, I actually want to add the end year to this. This is a quirk about NewsBank. It doesn't automatically give you a start year to the present. You have to tell it that's what you want. So that's another thing that is unusual, that's different from a Dragon Quest search. Now, as I look through here, I see all of the different types of sources that are available. So I can narrow this down to specifically newspaper in general. I can look at college newspapers. I can look at Newswire articles. I can look at web-only sources that weren't issued in print. To the right here, I can see the name of the article. I can see a brief preview of what it looks like. I can see when it was published. So this was only published 5 days ago. This is very new. And I can see what newspaper it was published in. Also where that newspaper is based. So I can make sure that I'm comparing apples to apples, right? I don't necessarily want to take this source from Mumbai, India, and make comparisons to California, Mount Clarion, California, unless I'm doing so very intentionally. There are certainly research papers that you can do that compare two different countries, two different places like that. But if that's not your research method and that's not your research goal, you'll just confuse yourself if you look at sources that are separated like that. Now, let's click on one of these search results to see what we can get in addition. So if I hover over, I'll see that I get an article preview that tells me a little bit more about this source. It gives me the first couple words, so I can decide whether I want to actually dive in. If I click on it, I get the whole news article, right? Newspaper articles are fantastic and flawed in that sense. They're very short most of the time. So unlike a journal article that's going to run 10, 15, 20, 30 pages, newspaper articles may be going to run 1 or 2. So they're quick resources. I can get a really good idea of different words that I might not have thought of to use in my academic searches in Dragon Quest. That's going to be one of the main uses for newspaper articles when you're doing academic research, right? We're going to see things like structural inequality coming up, gender discrimination, gender-based violence. These are all search terms that I could use in Dragon Quest that I could expand my search with. Across the top, I have the usual suspects. I can click on email to send this particular resource to myself if I'm on a public computer and I don't have the ability to save the article or print the article, which I can do here. If I'm in the library, if I'm in Pfeiffer Library, I can print this for free. I can also download a copy of this article and then upload it to my Google Drive or move it into Zotero, whatever I want to do with it once I have a physical PDF copy of it, digital PDF copy of it. I can save it to my folder and add it to my expanding collection of research materials. And then also I can copy a link and send that back to myself. And that should just about do it for NewsBank. NewsBank is one of our resources that lets you dive into newspaper articles and get a really good sense for what people are currently saying about topics, what they're saying about hot button issues, social issues, all of the sort of things that you're probably interested in and that you'd like to do academic research on. Your research papers are going to mostly lean towards relying on peer-reviewed resources, the journal articles, for reasons that will become clear once you've watched the how it's published and the scrap test source evaluation videos, which will be linked in the description to this video. On the other hand, knowing what people are saying about your topic is a really good way to find general search terms that you can use in your academic research. Also, if you're not sure what people are saying about your topic, this is a good way to inform yourself with writing that is meant for the general public, right? It's going to be more accessible than some of those peer-reviewed journal articles that's written for specialists. Reading some newspaper articles, some encyclopedia articles, this is how you become one of those experts who can engage with journal articles and dig much deeper into your topic. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the library at library@tiffin.edu or to me directly at gilmerjm@tiffin.edu. Good luck with your research and have a great day.